Ajnanaatimirandasya jnanajanashalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Gurudev, good morning. We're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Verse 19. Tada rajastamo bhava kama lobhadayaschaye cheta etar anavidam stitam sattve prasiddhati. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness and he becomes completely happy. So, this is a sentiment that Krishna echoes in chapter 2, verse 59 of the Gita. It's this idea that to give up our desires, to give up our negative qualities, is of course necessary on the spiritual path, but is incredibly hard. Because when you simply abstain from them, which means you just physically stop doing them, it doesn't mean that they've really left you because of the remainder of the attachment to them. The mental domain remains strong, even if the physical domain has experienced the distance from those things which affect you. This is why desires are even a problem to begin with. 99% of the desires we have are not things which we actually ever really obtain physically, but they still trouble our mind. Because attachment mentally does not require physical interaction. It simply requires attraction. So as long as we are attracted to the idea remains alive in our minds, whether it ever manifests physically or not. And so, in chapter 2, verse 59, Krishna mentions that the solution to this seeming problem of, although I may abstain from something, attachment persists, is that we must simply gain a higher attraction. This is the real solution to this. And when you have a higher attraction, which in this case, of course, is for Krishna, for God, then all other attractions naturally fall away. You don't have to work very hard on them. You don't have to specifically address them. They naturally fall away because they are actually replaced. They're replaced by an attraction that is higher. And this is very, very important because I see a lot of people struggle with their flaws, with their weaknesses, because they try to face them head on. They try to directly address them, when I don't think this is the prescribed method. Even now, this Bhagavatam verse of Canto 1, Chapter 2 that I read, verse 19, it says the exact same thing, that the effects of tamas, rajas, guna on us, those energies which make us incredibly desirous of these things, where we pursue these kind of pleasures and happiness that we are accustomed to, that we are familiar with, the only true way to actually move away from this habit, which is what it is a programming and a habit. The effects of sattva guna are another habit, and so how do you get rid of one habit and develop another habit? Well, first of all, by repeated practice. So you do need to reprogram the contents of your hard drive. So look at it this way. When you need to behave or respond to any situation, something happens in your life, your response is going to come from your inner hard drive. So whatever you've stored in there, information, experience, whatever, that is what's going to manifest out as a response to your life circumstances. And if you've been unregulated, spiritually speaking, it means that you probably have quite a bit of rajasic and perhaps even tamasic habits and tendencies stored in there. It is a societal collateral. Almost everybody has this to a high degree. And so this becomes our response. It means even when spiritual things are happening to us, we're in the temple, our response to spiritual activity will not automatically be sattvic, it will still be according to our programming. So we are in the temple, everybody's singing kirtan, maybe there's a puja going on, but instead of feeling peaceful, bliss, shanti, ananda flowing everywhere, maybe we are feeling restless, like we're bothered about, I'm not sitting comfortable, what am I doing next? When is my next plate of food going to come? Is it going to be tasty? Maybe I check my phone quickly. All of these things that have nothing to do with the prayer, but we just can't do nothing, right? We have to do something. Because peace, as lovely as it is doing nothing. You're just at peace. That requires an absence of a disturbing energy. So peace is non-disturbance. Rajas is a disturbing energy. Not necessarily in a very bad way, but it disturbs anyway. So you've all experienced this. When you're supposed to be doing your kriya, you're supposed to be doing prayers, but you're disturbed by something else, often mentally. Sometimes by seeing your neighbors. What's my neighbor doing? He's moving his leg like this the whole time. So annoying. Like all of these little things which just disturb our focus, right? Oh, this one's not singing in the right pitch. My prayer is disturbed now. Like prayer is conditioned by tonality of voice, for example. But this is how we are. So you see that if you actually try to address this, can you? Can you tell your neighbor, hey, stop moving your leg? And you have control over him? If he says, no, I won't stop moving my leg, then you need to find another solution to be okay in the prayer. If you tell your neighbor, hey, can you sing better, please? This also doesn't work. Which means you need to look at yourself and say, if I cannot rid myself of the causes that are agitating my rajas, my tamas, my habits, whatever, then maybe it is not the causes that I need to change, maybe it's the response, maybe it's the programming. So similarly, as we have lived, most of us, I would say, we have not had the good fortune of being raised by Guruji. Most of us have lived a long time away from this reality. So we take our body, our mind, to be a hard drive, like a computer has a hard drive, a lot of garbage stored in there. And we need to remove it, but we're not so sure how to remove it, actually. But we do know how to add new stuff. Removing is not so clear how to do it. We heard about this Atma Kriya Yoga, maybe we can do this. But adding stuff, we are very expert in adding stuff into our hard drive. Only thing Guruji has asked us to do is, now that you are spiritual and you have this awareness, be mindful that what you add is helping you and is in alignment with your spiritual goals and ambitions that you have now. Which is why he says, read Bhagavad Gita every day, things like this. And he said during Narada Bhakti Sutra that one of the most important things you can do, if not the most important thing that you can do, is to listen to his satsang. And it's not because I believe every one of us is going to remember every word he said in his satsangs. But it's because consciously or subconsciously, this is what you are putting into your hard drive. Your conscious mind is not aware of everything that's in here anyway. It is in the moments when you need to respond and react to situations that you become aware of what you have stored in here. So the more you store those satsangs in there, consciously or unconsciously, it becomes an important influence in your day-to-day responses, reactions, behaviors, thinking, etc., etc. And you start to, unaware of your own change, start to create new habits and new tendencies and new settings almost in your being. Which is why, without necessarily having to concern myself about deleting all the bad stuff inside of myself, I've now transformed myself for the good because I've overwhelmed the negative with positive. I have put more positive things in there than I have negative, but that requires me to simply make the choice. It's just a choice. I choose to put this into my body. I choose to watch this. I choose to spend my time with this. I choose to be around these kind of influences. I choose, I choose, I choose. And the effect comes naturally. So Why I'm giving this example is because instead of being overly concerned with the negativity that is already present inside of myself, rather be concerned with acquiring positivity, with finding the good where it is available and taking that into your system. This is the most effective way of overcoming the negative. It is not by looking at the negative, swimming in the negative, contemplating the negative, worrying about the negative, comparing the negative, criticizing the negative, justifying the negative, because this is often where it ends up. When you cannot solve it, then you justify it. Oh, it's okay to be negative, everybody else is also. Yes, but everybody else is also trying to get rid of it. Nobody's sitting here with the delusion to think, the more negative I am, the more my chances of entering Vaikuntha. The more negative I am, the more pleased Gurudev will be with me. The only time it's ever been okay to be negative in Guruji's mind has been with this corona situation. We all know this. He has always said that you need to be thinking of God, thinking positively about your relationship to God. I'm not talking about the world and all of this. That you can have whatever opinion you want, doesn't matter. It won't change anything. What you think about the world does not affect your relationship with Narayana, not really. I'm talking about your relationship to Guruji, to God, and how often we go into that negativity to say, I'm not progressing. I don't feel like he loves me, or he really likes me. I don't feel like I have enough attention. I don't feel like this or that is right. I don't feel like I have the right skills or the right whatever. My service is not good. This guilt, this self-beating, this doubt, this is what I mean about negativity. I don't mean anything else. Yeah, like, oh, my neighbor is a nasty person. This is like minor level negativity. This is honestly irrelevant. It's the more fundamental things about your very purpose, your very relationship with Guru and God. And so often people ask, well, how do I fix this? Because I do think those things. I do have big concerns about that. The evidence points that Guruji agrees with those concerns. I think he doesn't like my service, and I think he doesn't like me. So how do I fix this? I ask the person, why do you think the evidence points towards this? How do you come to this conclusion? Guruji came to your face and said, I don't like you or your service, go away. The person says, no, but he didn't come to me and tell me that he liked it either. In fact, he didn't come to me at all. And when he looked at me, he gave me a mean look, not a nice look. I said, well, he gives everybody that look from time to time. He also gave you darshan, correct? Yes, I took darshan 2 weeks ago. What look did he give you then? A loving look? Yes, but he gave everybody that loving look. So when I tell you that he gave everybody the loving look, this no longer counts. When I tell you he gave everybody the mean look, this is for me. He doesn't like me. You see, we play this game badly because the mind loves drama so much, it will justify the continuation of its own drama, ignoring the facts. Ignoring the facts that a look is such a ridiculous thing to base an entire relationship off of. This person who says, Guruji doesn't like my service, amazingly, despite not liking your service, Guruji pays for you to live in his house and to serve him. That seems very strange behavior for somebody who doesn't like your service. As if Guruji is somehow imprisoned, like he has no choice, because this is how the person responded. Yeah, but look, you know, again, he keeps hundreds of people here. I'm like, no. He keeps exactly 100. And each one of the persons who is here has a continued specific purpose here. And when they don't, when they have a purpose elsewhere, he immediately makes that purpose known. He is very direct in making purposes known to people. Now this needs to happen. Now that needs to happen. Now you've reached this point where it needs to end. You have not yet reached the point where this needs to end. And he puts the pieces where they need to be. So if you are here, the only thing which is telling you you should not be here is your mind. And it's lying to you. How do you know it's lying to me? Because he keeps you here. He can wake up any day, write a message to any one of STC and say, get rid of this person right now. And then you would be out. And then you could say, it's no longer my place here. And you would be right. But until then, it's just fantasy. And this I have a concern with, because it is the mind that wants to believe its own stories in order to justify what it is feeling or not feeling. This is the bigger point. Sometimes we do not feel the attraction for Krishna. Sometimes we are not feeling these big bhavs and big love and all these amazing things which we hear devotees share from time to time. And so we must find a way of justifying this. We must find a way of normalizing this. Otherwise, the only other option that our mind finds is that, well, it's only because I'm terrible. That's the reason I don't feel it. And we can't have that. So what is the justification that we'll often find for why I'm not feeling things? The dramas and stories are endless. There's no need to now list them all. But we find these all the time. And what is the advice Guruji gives to solve this? We have to come practical point. What is the advice Guruji gives to solve all of this? Is it any different than the advice he gives to advance your spiritual life? And the answer is actually no. And I've said this last time, I'm saying it again. When you actually break it down, if you come to Guruji with the problem of, Guruji, how can I advance faster or more effectively? Or you come to the problem, Guruji, I'm not feeling any advancement. How can I feel? Or Guruji, I'm struggling with my ego. Or Guruji, how can I love you more? Or Guruji, the whole spectrum of things that people go to him with. Amazingly, his answer is actually the same for all 5 circumstances. Just do your japa. And don't worry so much. But people will still find a way of saying, yeah, but specifically this issue, Guruji, how can we solve this? This is what Krishna is saying in 259. This is what the Bhagavatam is saying here in 1.2.19. It is not focusing on the specific issue that solves it. It is focusing on the specific solution. And the specific solution is to not think of the issue and to rather think of God. Enduring the doubt, enduring the pain, enduring the separation, enduring the lack of understanding that we sometimes have. And we all have this. I go through so many periods of not understanding what Guruji wants at all. He will give some lecture. For example, I'll give you a really good example actually. Haribhakta Sampradaya. Big new change. We're going to be everything very clear now and everything from us. We're not going to borrow any other ideas. Everything straight from Guruji. Perfect. Myron and myself, we go walk 3 hours with Guruji. We have a list of questions. We ask him the questions. He clarifies all of them. We record it all to have evidence to use against who? Only him. We write the document. We write the document, we send the document, everybody in the country reading the documents, translating the documents, studying the documents. Then Guruji sits here on his asana, gives satsang before he left to go to Lanzarote. He's talking about Krishna, the gopis, Vrindavan, right? 2 things, Swami Aniruddha is sitting there, I'm sitting on the altar. Guruji speaking, with every sentence he says, Aniruddha and I are looking at each other like, you know what this reaction is? This is the reaction of somebody who realizes for the 100th time that Guruji has just contradicted everything that he just made so beautifully clear a month ago. And having to rewrite, having to re-explain, but before even that happens, re-understand what is even going on. What did he say that made us react like this? He said, what the gopis had, nobody else had. And they were so fortunate to have this Vrindavan Leela with Krishna because the Vrindavan Leela, nobody else had. And this was the highest. And why this is a problem? Because a month before, Guruji said, it is a very clear point of our Sampradaya that there is no hierarchy in Leelas, in devotees and in manifestations of God. Gopis are not better than the wives, neither of Lakshmi. Vrindavan Leela is not better than Dwaraka Leela or any other Leela. And then he sits there and says, the best. Right? And you sit there and you go, okay, the best. But you must be fully at peace with this, because if not, what arises? A frustration. How are you going to solve this frustration? By getting Guruji to behave? This is a funny joke. Which means either you sit with this and just become lost in this, or you make your peace with it. Why? Because at the end of the day, you love him, love God, okay. What is really disturbed? Is the love for God disturbed? No. Is the love for him disturbed? No. Is the understanding of the situation disturbed? Sure. But I am reminding that in this process of acquiring more and more love, of developing our sattvic qualities, which means our ability to be at peace in any situation. When he presses one button, 2 buttons, 10 buttons at the same time. He's got 10 fingers, he can press 10 buttons. Imagine now, he has 4 hands. There's a lot of buttons to press. Yeah, how many hands he can have, isn't it? You see Tulsidas Nrsingadev deities, many hands. So many buttons to be pressed. But your ability to be at peace when all these buttons are being pressed shows an actual level of spirituality, right? An ability to be equanimous in these external situations. But to get to this point, you have to endure it. You don't fight back. You don't resist it. I have fought back many times. When Guruji says something I don't like, let's go. Mentally, I'm not physically putting my fists up. But in the end, I ever came out of that feeling better? No. No. Maybe I even got an answer from him. Like he actually says, okay, fine. It's like that. Do it your way. So technically I walk away with a clear answer now. But the feeling is always rubbish. The feeling is, but it was because I couldn't be at peace with the answer. Because I couldn't be at peace with the lack of clarity that I've now prioritized my clarity over the sanctity of the correct behavior and relationship between me and him. You understand that? And that's problematic, because that's a pattern. That's a mode of thinking where the rebellion and where the desire for certain things starts to become a priority over the surrender and acceptance of the uncomfortable. So that uncomfortable is very important. We all have to learn to live with it. There is no escaping. Loneliness, doubt, suffering, confusion, learn to live with it. Because you will have to persevere through all of these things to acquire that which you really want. I give the example for this. The best example always is when you go to the gym. One of the reasons that one may go to the gym is because they want to become fit, right? Because you're very weak. You get tired very quickly. So you say, I go to the gym now, I'll become fitter, I'll get stronger. Very good. How does this process happen? You press a button and then now you're very fit and strong. No, if it was like this, everybody would. No, you have to start lifting and doing all kinds of crazy things, and then you're sweating and your muscles hurt. The next day you wake up, you can't even move. It's like a pain to even lift a spoon to have your breakfast. This is what happens. And then what will most people do? Oh, yeah, this is too difficult. I give up. Why? Problem is there. Solution is there, but for the solution to work, we have to endure a process, a period of difficulty, of pain, suffering. It's the transformation period. And because we don't want that, the goal is to avoid pain and suffering, so it seems illogical that I'm inviting even more pain and suffering into my life when I'm actually trying to avoid it. So we just give it up. But the trick of it is that the solution to almost every pain and suffering is that you must actually elevate the pain and suffering before you can fully overcome the pain and suffering. You want to become free, you have to become even more controlling and restricted so that you can eventually become free. That's the irony of it. You were all in the world, doing whatever you wanted. Going out with friends, working the job, living where you liked, doing what you liked, free. Then you hear about Paramahamsa Vishwananda and spirituality, and you go, I will now attain real freedom. Next thing you know, you're living in an ashram, you have nighttime rules, you can't go out, you have to wear one color only, you have to not eat meat, no drink alcohol, no association with certain people, blah, 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 blah. Now you have so many rules, and it seems counterintuitive. I wanted freedom, now I have less freedom than I had before. But it's the same process. I was feeling tired, I want to feel fit, I went to the gym, now I feel even more tired. This doesn't make sense. Except it makes perfect sense, because it is by this process that you are training yourself to, each time you go, you will feel less tired. Each time you are exposed to this so-called strictness, you feel it less strict. To comes to the point where you condition your mind, your body, you transform yourself so much to the point where you attain true freedom, true strength, true whatever it is. And yes, you had to survive this period of difficulty until you got there. So it's the same thing with God. You want to feel love and attraction for Krishna. Keep doing what you're supposed to do. Do your japam, go to prayer, do your sadhana, do all the things Guruji has said. But don't allow yourself to become discouraged when the symptoms of unattraction to Krishna, or attraction to other things rather, still come up and affect you and disturb you. That should not be reason for you to sit and think, this is not working. It is as stupid to say that as to somebody who goes to the gym, lifts some weights, and then says, I feel tired, this is not working. No, you feel tired because it is working. Similarly, you will feel all those other attractions because they are actually being disturbed, they are being transformed, they are being defeated. How many times Guruji has said, the more spiritually advanced, the more crazy your mind will become, fighting for its survival. Because your mind is not stupid, your ego is not stupid. It realizes the more you do this spiritual activity, the less important it is, the less position it has in your life. And so it's not going to go like, oh great, I was waiting for this moment. I will now humbly step aside and allow your spiritual transformation to continue. Jai Gurudev. This is how your ego speaks. No, your ego says, whoa, 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 whoa. Remember me? Fun, happy, yeah, comparison, judgment, woo, control. Yeah, your ego is going to scream. It's going to do everything to make you not let go of it. So just be aware of this. This is the only point of 259 and 1219 that I'm making. The solution to these problems is to advance deeper into your attraction for God. But don't be discouraged that in this process of attracting yourself to God and approaching God, many disturbances will come intellectually, emotionally, physically, etc. Don't allow yourself to be discouraged by those things, because they are natural symptoms of your transformation. But you must not stop doing the things that you have been told to do by Guruji to advance that attraction. If you stop that on account of all the difficulties and doubts, then the difficulties and doubts will win. And then there is no point to it. You are suffering for no result. Rather you suffer for some real result, like the one who goes to the gym, than the one who doesn't. Persons who work out once a week and then give up after 3 weeks, this is the funniest thing. Because now they just have extra days of muscles hurting for no result whatsoever. There's no change, it's not enough. Yeah? Or they do diet for 1 week, and then after that diet is finished, I want pizzas and burgers. Right? It's like, why you went through this stupid suffering of 1 week? In the end, it has zero effect, because you're still completely uncontrolled. So similarly, our spirituality can be, oh, I'm going to do 1 week of fasting and japam and puja, and then next week it's back to like doing absolutely no spiritual effort and watching movies and whatever. Then it's like, well, what's the point? It's the same. You have to persevere and you have to endure it. Jai Gurudev.